antique dealer. And I was selling dresses and quilts and hook rugs, and every once in a while I'd pick up dresses, and then slowly I started picking up stockings because they were really inexpensive and they were so cute.
Right.
And I tried to sell them and they wouldn't sell, so eventually I didn't sell them at all, and I started collecting stockings, and that's how I ended up with 65 pairs. His wedding stockings, handmade for his wedding, and they were worn in 1805.
1805, wow. And that's the oldest in your collection?
Yes.
And from,
They came from Dr. Bartlett's collection from New Hampshire, and when he, some descendants of his passed away, they had a big auction of the estate.
Right.
And they found these stocks in there, and an antique dealer called me up and told me he had just purchased them. Well, the family, but Dr. Bartlett was the one who signed the Declaration of Independence. That was the original estate, and these were the descendants and inheritors. And then eventually there were no children left, or they decided to sell the furniture and everything in the house, and those came out separately because of the signature on
the sock. And over to the right,
we have the 1930s netted stockings that were used for dress, and they're probably silk, but at some point then they had oil-based, chemical materials that we wear now, like nylon stockings.
Right.
Then the group here is basically children's stockings. These were probably handmade or manufactured. These are manufactured. Now, there's something interesting in this exhibit. When they had worn out stockings, they started making these purses. So they probably went to the general store and they bought the clasp, and then they attached a worn out stocking so that they could use it as a change purse. Here's one where I put a dollar bill in just to show in the exhibit that it was used for money. And so it was a really thrifty kind of an idea. You can tell they're knitted.
Right.
And these are handmade, and then this is maybe an indigo dye. We don't really use indigo anymore.
Yeah.
And they're very heavy, and they're for winter. Now these begin to be manufactured, and I put the colorful ones on top. This is not woven. It's made in Germany, and it was printed with dots on it. And they're printed with harps on it.
Okay.
Which a lot of people would go to the museums, the stocking manufacturers today copy some of the old church. They used to wear just a calico dress, and later on they had calico material, but they were store-bought, and the dresses were bought in the store. At these times, they may have made worn under a handmade dress. Of course, then if they had high boots, it would hide the stocking.
Correct.
So maybe it was really in the summer or the spring.
That they would use these colorful socks.
Yeah. And here's one of my favorites also. This is really a great color. So we had a big textile industry, and then another industry developed with the socks, and then today there are socks shops all over the United States. They're in the malls.
Right.
And we even have one on Main Street, downtown Gloucester. And he'd sell a lot of his socks over the website. It's not in business anymore, but if you go to some of the big malls, you'll see sock shops.
Right.
And that's all they sell is socks. Stockings started going up in price at antique shows, and I found out that there were people collecting them, and other textile dealers were buying them for collectors. So one day I found this, and the person wanted $45, and I said, but there's only one, and they didn't have the other one. But it was very rare because somebody beaded birds.
Oh, I see.
On the silk stocking, and probably either to get married.
And you catalog these?
I cataloged them, and I put them in categories: silk versus cotton, versus dressy, versus wedding, versus children's, versus baby size, and sporting, and just everyday wear. I started getting into accessories. So this is a darning ball.
Okay.
So if you saw that at an antique show on a table, you'd think, well, why would anybody have like a wooden egg? And so they would put it in the sock, and then they repair the hole so they could really work with this. So that was put into the sock. What happened is that I would see a really fabulous pair of stockings lying on a table at an antique show, and they would be like $10, $15, and I thought, well, that's nice. And then I'd buy it, and then I'd put it out at my next show, and nobody bought it. So then somehow I just kept collecting stockings when I found them. I wasn't really pursuing them at that time. But then eventually nobody bought them, and I started concentrating on finding them. If I saw them on a table, like at an antique show, I'd buy them. Until the prices got heavy, because then other people started collecting them, and when that happens, prices go up.
Correct.
So now I have about 65
Could you repeat your website again, please?
www.anttot.com, but it's all one, anttot.com.
Thank you.
And I'm going to expand it, hopefully, and if people want to, they can email me, I hope. my email addresses. And I always
All right,
wanted to
thank
do
you.
display here at Christmas, and finally this year they had a space for me. And now they've extended it through January because the next person isn't coming in for a while. So people have a chance to come and see this, and should remember that the library opens Monday through Friday from like 1 to